Wonderful bit of footwork here by Edberg, making up his mind quickly that he wasn't going to volley or half volley, stopping, getting back so that he could then come into the ball with good momentum, good power, good control.
It's not possible that I'm asleep. Well, Edberg dug himself out of a considerable hole there. Now 30 down. But he hangs on to his opening service game of this third and final set.
Yes, real resolution there, as you say. It hasn't, I don't think, been a particularly demanding match physically. I think boetsch was missing too many shots earlier on for that to be the case. But of course, where Edberg will be feeling a little puffed here, a little short of wind, is the fact that he will have consumed quite a bit of mental energy, which of course can be quite tiring physically. I've seen people actually have cramps in the first set, chiefly because they've been so uptight mentally that it's transferred to their muscles and they've virtually seized up. I don't think Edberg's anywhere near that state, but that's why he does look a little in need of a banana.
Yes, full of carbohydrates, quick sugars, easily digestible, thoroughly recommended by the ATP Tour trainers who advise all the players on diet. So neither of them exactly serving well. But boetsch, you'll notice, really cut down the unforced errors in that second set. That was the big difference. Here he is, serving love one in the third.
Well, I'm not sure what he was trying to do with his racket then. He hadn't realized at first how deep his return was going to be, which is why he hesitated, but then he got into a good position to play the volley. And this is far more straightforward at this point. Somebody's reversing, and Edberg must feel in a way that he's been reversing a bit since he had that enormous lead. Well, I say enormous, but it was psychologically enormous.
Yes. Set 2 love, but having won 6 games in a row, and with boetsch in absolute mental turmoil. It's those double faults that really opened the door.
Just dripping off him. Well, lovely positive point with which to end that game. This is boetsch really turning the tables. This is what Edberg has done for a lot of the match. Almost the most positive point that he's played.
Oh dear, sticky fingers time.
Yes, he needs a runner, needs somebody to throw the ball up for him.
That was almost predictable, wasn't it? He got himself out of love 32 games ago. He's going to have to try and do that again.
Well, a great deal of satisfaction because he's made it all. Real snap on the cross-court volley. No steering of the volley up the line there.
No snap, sadly, on the approach shot. Down the middle, short.
Yes, much less conviction there and much more from him.
So, chance for boetsch to make the first positive strike of this final set. And we've seen so many terrible mishits from Edberg. And that was all too predictable. And discarded in disgust, shirt discarded in disgust. That's about as irate as you'll ever see Stefan Edberg on a tennis court.
Yes, it's actually going to be overused, but it is quite sad. Really, it's not so much that boetsch is taking this match by the scruff of the neck. It's unfortunately Edberg who's just collapsing a little bit here.
Yeah, that is the feeling, isn't it? And also, I mean, I suppose we could say that this is something like the 6th most important tournament if you say the 4 Grand Slams and then the ATP World Championship in terms of singles tournaments, albeit that it's a restricted field. But then here, you can make a case of the Grand Slam Cup, I guess. And you want Stefan to go out playing well on the centre court, preferably against one of the very top players. And Arnaud's a very fine player. I mean, you don't get to be 17th in the world unless you can play a bit, but he's not the highest echelon. And also, this is a match that Stefan had in his grasp.
Very much so. I suppose Edberg would be saying that reports of his loss of this match have been greatly exaggerated. And so I shouldn't count him out of it just yet. But I think in some ways he's only got himself to blame, because the expectations are so much higher on him now, because he has announced at the beginning of the year that he is going to retire at the end of the year. And I think it's given the form he's shown over the last 2 years, where he's done a lot of this losing of matches that he ought to have won, I think it's just applying that much more pressure, unnecessary pressure.
Six ace from Boetsch. And a man who, about an hour ago looked a certain loser, now looks a certain winner. But can Edberg do what Boetsch did? Will Boetsch do what Edberg's done? Fold. Oh, gosh. Edberg isn't just folding now, he's collapsing in a heap of jelly.
Well, he got away with it. He didn't middle it particularly well. Boetsch was expecting something finer. But Boetsch, I don't think, is likely to be infected with the nerves. As he's foot faulted for the second time. Because Boetsch is a very fine player, and I think he's finally realizing that he can be a fine player even against Edberg, who he's lost to 10 straight times. Well, his agitation, you can sense why, because it should have been 15-30, and it might well have been the end.
Back on the Boetsch side.
Yes, it was close, but I think actually a very good call.
Well, while he's only one break of serve behind, there's plenty of hope still for Edberg. He's broken his opponent's serve 3 times in the match and had 3 other great opportunities. So it ain't over till that old lady is sung.
Yes, you can see the wind tearing the umbrellas there. This court a little less sheltered, understandably, than the stadium court. The stands, the bleachers aren't quite as high surrounding it, but it is surrounded on all 4 sides, so there are channels through which the wind can come, sort of at the wings. But I think that really was a very important game, and having just extolled Boetsch's virtues, I think one's got to reprimand him for a lousy game, frankly. Shots there that with Edberg really hanging on the hook, he should have made, and I think it would have been one of the last rituals of the match.
It's not possible that I'm asleep. Well, Edberg dug himself out.
Wonderful bit of footwork here by Edberg, making up his mind quickly that he wasn't going to volley or half volley, stopping, getting back so that he could then come into the ball with good momentum, good power, good control.
Quick sugars, easily digestible, thoroughly recommended by the ATP Tour trainers who advise all the players on diet. So neither of them exactly serving well. But Boetsch, you'll notice, really cut down the unforced errors in that second set. That was the big difference. Here he is serving love one in the third.
Well, I'm not sure what he was trying to do with his racket then. Little puffed here, a little short of wind, is the fact that he will have consumed quite a bit of mental energy, which of course can be quite tiring physically. I've seen people actually have cramps in the first set, chiefly because they've been so uptight mentally that it's transferred to their muscles and they've virtually seized up. I don't think Edberg's anywhere near that state, but that's why he does look a little in need of a banana.
Yes, full of carbohydrates. Kind of a considerable hole there. Off 30 down. But he hangs on to his opening service game of this third and final set.
Yes, real resolution there, as you say. It hasn't, I don't think, been a particularly demanding match physically. I think Boetsch was missing too many shots earlier on for that to be the case. But of course, where Edberg will be feeling it